Welcome everyone to Baking by the Book. I'm author Liz Tolsma. When I'm not writing, I love to be in the kitchen baking up some of my favorite recipes. And here we're going to feature some recipes from some writer friends of mine that maybe have made an appearance in their books or are important to them in some way or another. So I'm really excited to get started on this venture. I have a great lineup coming up for you, so you're going to want to subscribe and give this a thumbs up and hit that notification bell so that you know when I'm posting new videos. So many delicious recipes coming up that you don't want to miss. Everything from cookies to pies to some fancier desserts, ones that you don't want to miss out. The recipe is going to be linked below, as well as the author's information and her website and all kinds of things like that. So check out that description box below. Let's get cooking then. Today we're going to start with a recipe for no-bake oatmeal cookies by author Nancy Brasher. I'm really excited. I know Nancy. She's just a sweet lady. She lives in San Clemente, California with her husband and her dog. And she has 7 wonderful grandgirls who love to help her in the kitchen and who support her writing. So this is from her book, Gunnysack Hell. Don't let that title put you off. I promise it's Christian fiction, but it is a psychological thriller. So if you like a little heart-pumping fun, that's what this book is all about. I'll tell you a little bit more about Nancy and about the book as we get going, but this recipe was inspired by her grandma Grace. She made it all the time for them. It's a great no-bake recipe. You do need a stovetop, but that's about it, because the characters in Gunnysack Hell actually live off the grid in the Mohave Desert in California, much like Nancy did when she was growing up. So they didn't have access to an oven, but they had a stovetop, and so they made this recipe all the time. So let's go ahead and get started on no-bake oatmeal cookies. Okay, so in a pot on the stove here on medium heat, I have some butter and some milk. As I said, the recipe is going to be down in the description box below. I actually halved the recipe because this makes 7 dozen cookies, and I just didn't know when on earth I'd be able to eat 7 dozen cookies. So I did have the recipe. We'll see how that goes. One thing that we're doing here is I'm trying out recipes that aren't necessarily my own. So hopefully we'll get these to turn out. These sound very, very easy. So we're waiting for this butter and milk mixture to melt, just warm up so the butter melts. In the meantime, I'm gonna take some sugar and some cocoa powder, and I'm just gonna mix those together because that's the thing that we're gonna need next. Okay, so our butter is almost melted here. We're getting very close, and I'm just stirring together the sugar and the cocoa powder a little bit here. We have a lot of stirring to do, so I'm not going to worry too much about that. Okay, that is really, I think, pretty well melted. So we'll go ahead and we'll add our sugar and our cocoa powder to this and stir this in. I'm also going to add just a little bit of salt and some cinnamon. I love cinnamon in my oatmeal cookies, and some vanilla. And we'll stir this all together, and we'll wait for this mixture to come to a boil. And once it comes to a boil, then we will cook it for 1 minute beyond that. So let's get this all mixed up here. Okay, that's looking really good. Yum, putting chocolate in oatmeal cookies. Fabulous. Okay, now we just have to wait for this to come to a boil, which shouldn't take too long. Okay, so you can see it's boiling. It's been boiling for a minute. So I'm going to add in the peanut butter here. This is what's going to help hold everything together. All that goodness that we're going to have. And we're going to take this off the heat until that peanut butter, get that peanut butter really well melted there and all combined. And that's going really quickly. That's not taking very long. You can see how nice and incorporated that's getting. Okay, that's looking pretty good. I think our peanut butter is just about all combined into that mixture. And now comes the most fun part of all. Okay, so now we are going to add our oats. You want to use the quick cook oats, otherwise it's too big and chunky. But can I tell you a little secret? I didn't have quick cook oats, so I just took the regular oatmeal and I put it in the blender a little bit and just made it finer. So that works too if you don't have the quick cook. Things happen, you know, you go to the pantry and you thought you had something and you don't. So we're just gonna get this all stirred in here. Oh, yummy. Now comes the fun part. Nancy told me that you can add pretty much anything that you want to these cookies. You can add nuts, you can add raisins, you can add all sorts of stuff. I actually thought about getting butterscotch chips because those are my favorite kind of cookies, are the oatmeal scotchies, so I thought they'd go great in here, so I got some of that. And the nice thing is if you have somebody who doesn't like something, that you could leave it, divide the recipe in half and leave it out of half of them or whatever. And so it's really, really very versatile. Okay, so I've divided the batter in half because we do have people in my house who don't like raisins. So I'm gonna put in raisins. That's just one of those little red boxes of raisins that I loved those growing up as a kid. I'll stir that in. And then I also have my chips. Like I said, you can put nuts in here, but cranberries would be good in here too. Pretty much anything that you can think of. Nancy told me that her grandma would just throw in whatever she could find into the house that sounded good. So we'll stir that in. Oh, a few more chips. I really like these butterscotch chips. And we are very close to being ready to make these into cookies. All right, so now the time has come to roll these into cookies. You know what, I should have let this cool a little bit before adding my butterscotch chips because they kind of melted, but we'll still have that butterscotchy flavor in there. And then you just take these and get your hands dirty and roll them into little balls like that and place them on a cookie sheet that's lined with wax paper or parchment paper, or I love to use my Silpats. So that's how we're gonna go ahead and make these cookies. This is why I bet Nancy loves to have her grandgirls with her, helping her to roll these out. This would be so much fun to do. While we do this, let me tell you a little bit more about Gunnysack Hell. There's more to fear in the desert than scorpions and rattlesnakes. In the summer of 1962, in the middle of the Cold War, the O'Brien family moves off the grid to the Mohave Desert in Southern California. After all, the desert has to be a safer place to raise a family than the crime-ridden city, and there they can build a new future. But evil also stalks dusty dirt roads, and 8-year-old Nani finds herself harboring a terrible secret. Only she can identify the predator who has been terrorizing the community, and he knows where she lives. That does sound really heart pumping, doesn't it? That's really cool. And as I said before, this book, Gunnysack Hell, is Nancy's debut thriller. She's done a lot of academic writing because she's spent her life teaching first in K-12 and then as an English teacher at the college level. So she's done a lot of academic writing, but now she's finally getting into fiction writing, and we're so glad that she is. Gunnysack Hell was inspired by a true crime event. And as I mentioned before, yes, she did live off the grid with her family on a homestead in a cabin in the Mohave desert when she was a little child. So she knows whereof she speaks in this book. All the buy links and Nancy's social media and everything will be in the description box below. So I will go ahead and I will finish rolling out the rest of these cookies, and then I will pop them in the refrigerator for an hour or two. If you want to speed it up a little bit, you can go into the freezer and wait until they are nice and firm. That is the beauty of no-bake oatmeal cookies, because after about an hour, 45 minutes in the refrigerator, these have firmed up. I think my chips melting in part was why they firmed up so quickly. If you didn't have them in there, it might take a little bit longer. So I learned something along the way, and that is if you're going to put chips in here, you're going to want to make sure that the mixture is really cooled down before you put them in, because they just totally melted in here. I'm hoping the taste will be really, really good. Let's find out. Those are really, really good. You can taste the chocolate in there and the peanut butter, and I can even taste the butterscotch in there from the chips that melted, but they're yummy, and I would highly recommend making these. I hope, Nancy, that we did you proud even with the mistakes. You're gonna learn along with me, viewers. Remember to check out Nancy's book in the description box below and find the recipe there. If you liked this video, please give me a thumbs up, subscribe so that you know when new videos are coming out, and get the notification bell so it pops right up on your phone. Thanks so much for joining me. We'll see you next time with another recipe and another author.